Okay, we're going to start now, very punctually for 11 o'clock. Um, Let me say a few things in our introduction. Welcome to our Bahrain Real Estate Landscape conversation about the visions of the future. This event has been 2 years in the making because of the COVID pandemic. We had to put this on hold when we wanted to organize this 2 years ago. But our panel is no less illustrious. If not, it's very timely to have this conversation, as somebody said, PC post-COVID. I'd like to, just a bit of housekeeping, if people could switch off their mobiles or put them on silent, I'd be very grateful because it'll be disrupting the recording. This particular event is a hybrid event. It's going to be Zoomed at the same time to an audience who's tapping in to experience it, as well as the live audience. I would firstly start off with a quotation, which is going to set the scene for what we're going to be talking about today. In the words of Leonardo da Vinci, realize that everything connects to everything else. This is a very prominent conversation we're going to have about the real estate sector, because everything that the real estate sector will do will connect to our daily lives, the economy of Bahrain, and our future. Without further ado, I'd like Majid Al-Khan to just lead off to give us a bit about where his perceptions of the future are as far as InfraCorp is concerned, and also as somebody who's involved in the real estate sector. So Majid, over to you.
Thank you for the introduction. When we look at the real estate prospect, to be very promising, to be honest. After the market downturn in the past couple of years because of the pandemic, I think it can only get better from now on. It depends on the key players between the government and major developers on how good it can get. I think we are all set at this point of time to start something bigger than what was going on in the market, change the perspective of both the investors and the end users. In general, I think the market has faced a few challenges even before the pandemic. We had a lack of liquidity in certain point of time. The FDI coming from neighboring countries went down at a certain point of time as well before the pandemic, which I think now, with all the setup that has been going on in the past couple of years, I think we are ready to attract those funds and those elements back to the country with the initiatives taken by the government, especially by boosting the confidence of the market, by establishing the right legal framework through RERA, and thinking bigger in terms of development, with key developments being developed by companies like ourselves, Edamah, and the major developers in the kingdom. So I think we're walking the right path, and hopefully we are going to achieve the right objective.
I mean, just before I come back to you with some questions, Majid, what things you said. I mean, as the lead developer for the vision of Telecast, EPB, what is your perceptions of the future for Bahrain real estate?
Thank you. So, I share my colleagues' views. There's a sense of optimism coming out of the COVID period. I think that the F1 last weekend and even yesterday's launch of this event has shown us that people are really ready to start to visit trade shows, start to engage. So I'm very happy with what I've seen so far. On the question of the strategy going forward, I think that there's very strong alignment between Edamah and the government's economic and tourism strategy. So we've really aligned ourselves with the tourism strategy. Our projects are large scale and they're long term. The most notable being Village al-Jazair, which is a multi-year project master plan that we intend to kick off this year with 2 hotels, and that will be commencing shortly. In addition to that, we have the Jumeirah Khalij Al Bahrain Resort and Spa, which is nearing completion. I think we should be complete within the next couple of months, and we should be able to welcome guests as early as September, October. So from my perspective, there's a lot of good things. There's good momentum starting this year for Edamah, for Bahrain, and even regionally, I can say that the trend now seems to be very positive.
So gentlemen, what issues have really affected you for that vision? Do you think you're on track with your vision, or particular? I mean, what is it post-COVID or pre-COVID? Has it caused any deficiencies in what you're trying to do?
Look, I think the vision really has been set, at least for Edamah, at the highest levels. And so this is a leadership plan. I think it was unveiled recently, where multi-sector developments were announced. Our involvement, of course, is specifically in the real estate sector and more definitively on the tourism. And so really our focus in terms of strategy is on hospitality, the developments of hotels, destinations, F&B, and again, for us, we see it very much aligned with the overall strategy that's been set by the leadership.
Majid, earlier we had this discussion because you have to respond to your investors and shareholders. It's about profitability. Has that, looking at profitability post-COVID with price inflation, cost price inflation indication issues, has that changed your challenges, given you more challenges, or changed your vision, amended developments?
I think every developer with some good level of experience can build a very dynamic model when it comes to costing, phasing, and pricing. I would like to add maybe a point to what Amin said. I think the challenge was always that the real estate market was more of a secondary contributor to the economy. We were there, we were developing, but we were developing to support other sectors. When the banking industry was the leading basically sector, we were doing the right housing, the right towers to accommodate their offices, to accommodate their staff. I think we need...
ندعوكم بالتوجه إلى قاعة المؤتمرات الآن، حيث ستنعقد جلسة ترشيح حول الدائرة المستديرة عن مستقبل العقارات في البحرين.
This is called direct money.
Ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to head to the conference hall now, where a roundtable discussion will be held on the future of real estate in Bahrain.
Thank you very much. Sorry.
So I think we need to change the perspective to be more of a primary contributor to the economy. And I think what we are trying to do at this point of time is that with the scale of the projects that are supported by the government, whether Bahrain Harbour or Bilad Jazair and other projects, is that we are trying to bring Bahrain to the international market by creating those attraction hubs, let's say. It's been very successful in neighboring companies, projects like Boulevard in Riyadh, which was very attractive in the past couple of years, DIFC in Dubai, Masdar City in Abu Dhabi. So those, if you see the essence of those, these are real estate projects, these are developments, but they've managed to cater the needs and attract different level of audiences and created a buzz in the entire economy. So I think this is the directive at this point of time, which will make it a little bit more difficult for smaller developers, to be honest, to compete in this market. However, I think everybody should have the ambition to go international. We need to think beyond catering what we have. I think if we create the right supply, demand will eventually come, and I think it's a very aggressive module. However, it is proven to be successful in other jurisdictions.
You're very much right, and I echo what you're saying. As Teddy Roosevelt once said, is the real estate is the basis of wealth. And I mean, you're one of the drivers of the wealth of the country. So how do you see that realizing in reality? Because I'm going to address the elephant in the room. As Bahrain is developing, so are our neighbors. They're also developing with estates. What is going to be the USPs for Bahrain?
So, I want to echo what's been said, because really destination creation is at the heart of what we're focused on. And so we are really looking to create new, unique experiences and play to our strengths as a country. So, Edamah is leveraging on Bahrain's long history, it's leveraging on its population, it's leveraging on its island status with developments like Harbour. So for us, we do see ourselves as an extension, really, of what's happening regionally. To come back to your question, we see that there's a lot of complementarity. There is competition, of course, but there's also a lot of complementarity. We were very pleased, being an investor in the F&B and hospitality space, to see the activation of Saudi the way that it's come about. We think that this has stimulated demand not just in Saudi, but also in Bahrain. So, I can tell you that we have investments in Adliya, in the hospitality sector. We have investments in the restaurant and F&B sector. And we've seen huge demand from Saudi women who now can drive with their friends over the causeway. It's created a new dynamic. It's created a new demand driver. And we see that continuing.
Thank you. Sorry. We've just been joined by Arif Hejres, who is the chairman of BAFTA. For the feedback. Thank you. Arif, before we go into some of the tricky issues, you represent a lot of the private developers. What is the feeling from your members of the future developments in Bahrain, the contributions to real estate perspective?
Okay, Salam alaikum. My apology. I don't know, should I speak in Arabic or English, as I see most of the audience Arabs. So I think we have two, one lady and one gentleman. Apologize for I had an important meeting and took some time. I'm always positive. I always say Bahrain always have opportunities not utilized. And some other countries, neighboring countries, they use all their opportunities and they went to the stage 2, which I call it, which is creating opportunities. In Bahrain, we are still at stage 1 where we have the opportunities. Unfortunately, we were late for some times, but things looks beautiful now with all the new projects that we see. We see a new muscles coming to the market, like Edamah, like GFH, with a beautiful project, something maybe we see for the first time. We always talk about lacking beachfront or public beaches, and I think I'm not promoting Edamah, even though Amin is a good friend. They have beautiful project that we should be proud of Bahrain. I have a small complaint. I'm trying to go on the weekend. It was so packed that I waited to enter 10 minutes, then I left because I have to wait for 20 minutes to get there, which is a positive thing, but we have to fix the gate thing. We have exceptional project here at GFH, one of the most iconic projects in Bahrain, I think, in terms of design, mixed use, location, and prices. And I think they have a very good offers now. Yesterday, he was telling me about the project. He made me think, shall I buy, shall I not? Not, because I think it will be self-paid. I don't know why I turn into marketing. I'm not a marketing guy normally, but overall, see, Bahrain will always have opportunities. Bahrain, it has its own flavor. When people ask me, what is Bahrain? I say it's small and beautiful. And yesterday when we took a look at this project, I was very optimistic to see this many projects, and some of them are really iconic and different projects that we should be proud. It is international level of a project, whether yet it's an, as I said, design, mixed use, even finishing. I've seen, and I bought some properties in the Gulf. Honestly, I'm not being biased here, but the finishing that we have in the product in Bahrain, it is one of the best.
If you'll allow me, I just want to
Please.
thank
Conversation.
Arif. I don't want to miss out on the good role that BAPTA has played, because under Arif's leadership, and I'm a member of the association, I can say that it has been instrumental not just in the marketing, but also in really pushing forward key legislation. Things like the Golden Visa were first discussed, I think, at the BAPTA level. These things, you can't underestimate really the impact that they've had. So I thank Arif for his support of the developers and BAPTA.
One more thing, I'm
Please,
sorry.
please.
No, I feel guilty. I think let's Majid talk, then I just want to add something. Majid,
I'm basically seconding what Amin said. I think the role was, this created all of us, the major developers. I think it's played a very key role here, because we managed to talk about our problems together, and now we have him even in the Chamber of Commerce, so he's passing all these messages that we have, or the concerns we have to the right authorities, and he really knows how to push the button, so that's a good thing.
So please.
I think I just want to tell you my experience with BAPTA, and I always say this publicly. We are lucky in Bahrain with RERA. It is the first body that has started with a partnership between the government and the private sector. Started from the beginning, from scratch, 4 people from government, 4 people from the private sector. We had meetings, we reviewed laws on international levels, and we had benchmarks. So I can proudly say today the laws of the real estate in Bahrain is one of the best, if not the best, on international level. We studied all the laws in the GCC, in UK, Australia, the US, and we selected the best. This is number 1. Number 2, the law was put in mix with both bodies, private and the public. Number 3, the board has the flexibility to change any law. They have the power to change any law, because this is a dynamic market. What we put today as a law might change tomorrow. So this is, I think, an excellent incentive for the developers, that they have a representation on the board of RERA, plus they have the power to change the law. And I think, I'll talk a little bit about BAPTA. I think we are the first property development association on the Gulf, and maybe the second on the Middle East. And this tells you how important is this sector and how the government is looking into this sector.
Thank you very much. But what are the challenges across the board, so the 3 of you gentlemen, whichever one to take it first, that you're having to face PC post-COVID, whether it's changing the market trends, requirements? Do you think, because I know in the UK now there's some developers talking about work from home, so they have to create much more internet usage or offices or whatever within the apartment buildings. So how's that affected your design going forward? Because I know in your case, I mean, your vision's already been laid out. Has that been moved in any way?
So look, it's really made us focus on delivering experiences that really can't be delivered easily through technology, right? So when we talk about destination creation as a trend, people today, when they go to a mall, the idea of what a mall is changed dramatically, right? Because if you want to buy a product, you can do that quite easily from your home, maybe cheaper and you get more. But really, today, people want to go out and they want to experience. And so you see products like the avenues, for example. I use the avenues because if I want to spend an afternoon or an evening, it's nice to be able to walk across the water, have a proper meal, maybe catch some entertainment. The same is true with Bilad al-Jazair. And we wanted people to be able to spend a long time. And that's why we brought the restaurants, we upgraded the facilities like the toilets, so people can spend a full afternoon. They don't just come for 1 hour and leave. And so really what you want to do is create destinations and provide experience. Experience is very difficult to transmit through technology. It has to be experience. And so I think that this has really kind of helped us focus.
Majid, in your case, Bahrain Harbour.
I'll tell you, I think one of the main challenges was in the past that the projects were not connected somehow, and they're not complementing each other to some extent, which is a pity actually. You have nice projects, however, they are not complementing each other in different locations, they're not connected. So it's not even contributing to the tourism in terms of making the tourist life easier to commute and to spend the whole day, as Amin said. So I think one of the things that we've tried, just to take our project as an example of Bahrain Harbour, is to create a destination. This is the key element at this point of time. It is all, we made sure that it is all connected, all the elements, because Bahrain Harbour has more than 3 million square feet of built up area, to be honest, so, and spread over 2 main islands. So how to make this flow connected, how we make the journey of any visitor or the residents easier, and how to link it to other projects. So we've worked very hard, for example, to create some kind of connection alongside the other projects and promote the other initiatives by the government. So we are connected now to the avenues, just to widen the experience of our visitors and let's say residents, especially with the extension of phase 2 of avenues. Now we made sure that these two projects can talk to each other. The marina, again, we've created the marina to create this connectivity with the initiatives of the government and the other developers, where they're trying to enhance the sea, let's say, tourism by creating these beautiful islands in the north of Edamah, and the development of Kuwar and other seafront developments. So for us, this was, I think, a key factor that we looked into. I would like to add one thing. I think this should be looked at even a greater level. And any project from now on should be coordinated between the government and BABDA to create that kind of synergy and added value between the development, rather than creating a competition that nobody would benefit from at the end of the day.
It's perfect, because my next question to you, all the three gentlemen, especially for BAPDA, you think that you have two isolated developments, not that isolated, but two developments that you're talking about. But then isn't there a saturation point, because how many malls you're going to need? You're all going to be chasing the same restaurant outlets, because how is that going to be growing market?
I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but I have some info being on the board. On the board of BABDA and on the board of the chamber, and being the chairman of BABDA. We have some good news for you. You will hear it officially soon, but I can hint, or I can maybe say it. We have to create demand. Maybe this is our weak points, but the good news, the private sector, the chamber of commerce, working closely with the government and so many initiatives, which I cannot announce now, but that will create a big demand. Recently, at the chamber, we made a study about the challenges of real estate. It took us 10 months. We did it with KPMG Fafro. It was a fantastic numbers, and I think people with us at BABDA, they know it because we shared it and we submitted officially 2 weeks back. Response was very positive. So knowing all the details, I'm very optimistic. I think there will be a great opportunities for the developers and the government. Honestly, I know the government and His Royal Highness, the Prime Minister, has, I would say, a personal eye on this sector. He wants this sector to flourish, and he's very supportive with all the initiative the chamber did. And even yesterday I had a meeting with the Minister of Works, and we discussed so many issues. So there is a good news, inshallah.
You're teasing us a lot.
This
You're teasing us.
This is teasers, yeah. So I'm very optimistic.
But on a practical basis, because I drive around Bahrain, you see the food trucks going. Does that impact upon the number of restaurants that you're going to have in your unit? As a small business, I can set up in a food truck. So when you're trying to attract and sell units, is that going to be good for investor appetite or bad for investors?
Can I take this, Amin, if you don't mind? I think, no, I think it creates, it's a different lifestyle, I think, the food truck. And the good thing that you brought it up, because we are hosting the food festival in our project, so we really don't feel that it is affecting us negatively. I think you need to create the entire cycle, especially when it comes to F&B. You need to provide the 1 dinar ticket to the 100 dinar ticket. You'll always have market between the different segments. We've been trying to attract in our project some of the international names to come and operate from Bahrain for the first time. They were very reluctant to come, to be honest, to meet with us and to see us. When they came, they felt the requirements, number one. They felt that we have the right project component to host those international names. And it's a saying that I always use it with them. If you try today to go and book a ticket, because they say Bahrain market is very small for us, and this is the perspective that they have, and it's our job to change that perspective. That it's very small, the market cannot take those tickets. I told them, go to the top 3 most expensive restaurants in Bahrain. Try to find a table in the weekend, 3 days before the weekend. You will not find it, so the demand is there. So you will have demand for those tickets, and you will have the demand for the food truck customers, which attract, at the end of the day, different kind of audience to the projects, which is healthy.
And I can attest and confirm what's been said, because really the food trucks provide a business model that really, in my mind, has become a necessity. They manage to keep their costs at a minimum, and at the same time they have mobility, so they can move to where the demand is. So, that business model is one that, especially during the COVID period, became a very important one, because it allowed them to rationalize costs. From our perspective, and I agree with this, you have to offer the full gambit. And we are investors in very high-end F&B and Adliya, and at the same time, we encourage food trucks and other kind of smaller operations at Bilaj. And I think that you've got to allow for kind of organic growth within the different sectors. Ultimately, what will create new demand is connectivity. And for me, this is where I see the leadership supporting. And when I say connectivity for us, the investment in the Southern Loop Road that has now connected Bilaj al-Jazar and the Jumeirah Hotel with the rest of Bahrain, this is a key investment for us. And I think we're very happy to hear about the new causeways that are being built. And so connectivity will make it easy for people to come, and that will increase the demand.
Sorry, I just want to add, I was 2 days back, I had one of the real estate agents visiting me, and I was very excited to hear what he said. See, this is when I say Bahrain has opportunities. By changing the law for the golden visa, that boosts the market. He says, I have made a very good sales of units because of that. means one single law that we open the tap that has a significant impact. And I think in Bahrain we have so many taps that we can open, and it's going to be open. And I know those, so I
So
think...
you're teasing us again.
Yeah.
He's a good plumber.
Yeah, can I ask, just slightly change, because I know you're an engineer by profession, and I mean you're leading the major development. Has the issues about environment, eco sustainability has been brought into any of your developments? Has this now become a buzzword around the world?
Yeah. For us, look, you know, ecotourism, and I talk specifically now about our Hejres project, is our first kind of foray into this space. And so we've signed up Mantis, which is an international operator that's really focused on ecotourism. And you know, just given the sensitive status of Hejres being kind of a unique island grouping with kind of unique wildlife, we are very sensitive that we don't have a disruptive project. And so we're starting to move in that direction with regard to Hejres. Even at Bilaj, we've started to look at new methods of building, new methods of providing power and water to take advantage of the new trends and to conserve. So it's something that's very much part of our ethos.
For your Infracorp, Majid?
We are so ESG friendly company as we speak, and I think we've changed the structure to make it to adapt those principles at the moment. This has a lot of reasons. The reasons why we've done that is basically one, it's our obligation to do that. Two, it opens a new international doors for the local investment houses or developers. There are a lot of international funds at this point of time who are encouraged or restricted to invest in ESG rated companies. So we needed to make sure to create that interest from those international houses and companies in Bahrain, and to start with ourselves. And I think going back to the pandemic, I think it really changed the perspective to a lot of people. We started to look into projects more, even, for example, infrastructure projects, which I think we're one of the leaders in the region, having currently we own more than 30 million square foot of land across the MENA region. And we were looking at infrastructure at a certain point of time to be the road network, the electricity network. We've expanded our perspective at this point of time to accommodate the social infrastructure, whereby we're focusing more on other sectors, trying to blend it with the real estate equation, like the healthcare sector, the education sector, basically to support the social environment of our projects. Next to trying to be efficient in terms of power, in terms of emissions, and other environmental gauges.
But Arif, for your members, not in this in a different, as part of the bachelor members, you have developers at different grades or different levels of financial ability. How's that affected their thinking? Have you seen that approach coming to some of the smaller developers about sustainable development or green building?
See, we have seen a big major change, I would say, in terms of, they started with the solar. Since solar prices are getting cheaper every day, now we see lots of projects, they're going for solar, they're going for recycle. So this we notice it. I just remember something that I need to add. The chamber, they made 3 studies. One is educational tourism. Bahrain at one stage we had 25,000 students, expat students studying here. Now we have 6,000, so we lost around 19,000. There is a plan to make this number reach 30,000. this is a big impact when you have 30,000. But this is not hard because we already have 25,000. Those people want unit, they want to buy apartments, cars, restaurants, homes. Another studies, and it was about the health care tourism. And this all complements in the real estate industry. And that has been submitted officially to the government, and I think the government is working on that program. So you will see a quick wins, I think, by this year and next year on this. There will be incentive to attract students to come here, people to come here for hospitals, plus those people will have a big impact on the real estate industry.
One another elephant in the room, as I say in England. What about the pressures on people's on individual pay packets? Because we have a VAT increases, the cost of price inflation, because products are coming more expensive. So do you see this being forecasted into your visions? So I mean,
Yeah. So look, we've seen inflation. We've seen inflation as a result of what you mentioned. We've seen inflation as a result of increased demand for construction. We tendered a couple of projects, and we were surprised actually by the prices that we got. The flip side to that means that there's people who are now getting business, right? Because the prices are reflective of the fact that they can. So, we moved, and I think we got used to two things. One, we got used to a depressed market, which I think is not healthy in the long run. And I think it's good to see the market start to heat up again. And number two, we got used to a lot of liquidity being in the system as a result of the banks. And I think that you're seeing now that excess liquidity start to deploy, and it's deploying, I think, a little bit faster. And I know that this is the case even for the automotive sector. Some people told me that you have to wait for 6 months now. But I think that will catch up, right? And so I think that what you're seeing now as the economy starts to heat up post-COVID, that supply now will start to ramp up, and then eventually there will be a better balance.
Majid,
Market will need its time to adjust, and I think it is starting to absorb those increases or those inflation elements. Yet I will refer to some of the studies that Mr. Arif was referring to, and with all the inflations we have, we still have the attractiveness of being the lowest, I wouldn't say the cheapest, the lowest cost per capita in the region. That by itself is a major attraction for people, and I think we will start seeing that. Hopefully this is what we're all hoping for. More institutions will come and will base their operations from Bahrain. If we manage to pass the right messages to them, like the cost of living, still and hopefully forever, no tax compared to other jurisdictions in the region which started to impose corporate income taxes. So I think if we use those elements, we'll be able to attract that demand to the region. I think this is on development side, we've seen a hike in the prices. And I think we're working very closely with PABDA, the Chamber of Commerce, everybody is talking about the additional cost on the developers, especially the infrastructure costs and other elements. I think it affected the market, and I think there is a need. We understand that basically the government requirements to get paid for the infrastructure they develop to make sure that that they can sustain the momentum of developing the infrastructure on the right pattern. However, I think we need to change the formula somehow, not to increase it as a layer of the cost, but make it more as part of the profit, just to encourage those people to come and start developing, and especially at this point of time where the market needs such initiatives.
I see some price reductions on some of the developments.
10% is not really a big deal, my personal opinion. As per the study shows the infrastructure cost plus the electricity and water increase. That is the major cost. And the study went into the details of the impact. Now the government, they know what what to do. And this is what I'm saying, we're expecting a good news for
So,
point.
another
For
teaser.
the start. But they understand, see, that the major thing that affected the real estate, especially the rentals in Bahrain, were electricity and water. And it was mentioned in details, plus the infrastructure. And we've heard some.
Because everything is connected ultimately within the economy. There's a knock-on effect. But can I take one more step, please?
The good thing that we have the right people are actually listening to us. The right people at the highest level of the country are basically listening to us, and they are being very interactive, let's say, and very cooperative, especially if people like Arif goes to them with statistics. These are the pros and cons of each decision. This is what we got, and this is what we've missed. And I do agree basically on the impact of electricity. This was a game changer for the rental market, to be honest, where everybody got affected. On the other hand, it created a new, let's say, made us more creative. Now we know just building any kind of property is not the right solution. If you have the right amenities, if you have the right sizes, the right finishes, this is why we're being creative to attract the existing demand and make it more attractive for people to stay within the country and make it more affordable. Projects like rent to own,
Yes.
for example, was a solution for us to come around this problem. And we've received a good appetite from the market, basically, for that.
So it's very creative
So
solution.
you have to be creative.
Yes.
Problems make you creative.
Can I ask before we hand it to the politician to speak? Because he's
Yeah.
very good politician. What, in your opinion, gentlemen, on the regulatory side, how can it be improved?
Look, I think we've seen a lot of improvement. So let me start with a positive note. And I think that the communication, I think Majid talked about how accessible leadership and the key decision makers are today. So there's really no barrier between the key developers. And I know because they see Edamah as part of the government, that, oh, this is just, no, it's actually even the private sector. So I think that the bureaucracy is much less. I think that there's receptivity to really listen and implement. And again, we've heard some teasers that I think will probably come to reality soon, that will reaffirm that the leadership and the government are behind the private sector, they're behind the developers, and they will support.
But if you have a wish list, what would be the next phase of the improvements of the regulatory process?
Look, I think that clearly, if we can start to make it even more efficient for new investors to come into the market, if it can be a very quick process for them to acquire assets rather than a multi-day process. So improving things like title deed transfer, improving things like registration of new properties. Anything that would make it easy and seamless is going to encourage investment, right? And so it's all about building efficiencies. It's all about translating. So, it starts with legislation, but then it's about how it's implemented. Because if it's implemented badly, then, and that's always a challenge with any kind of new law. It's announced, everybody is happy, but then when it comes to implementation, sometimes you get shocked that, it doesn't
work.
Yeah, and so it's about translating, I think, the positive steps that are happening at the legislative level into execution.
Majid, if you are saying before.
This is the wish list of the top of any developer wish list is to speed up the process of permitting. This is and to make it more solution-oriented rather than going by law. Because let's not forget that we still have a lot of very old municipal laws still applied today. We need to be creative. There need to be, it is a suggestion that we suggested to everybody, is that the special project needs to have special permitting authority. We cannot treat a $5 billion or a $3 billion permitting on the same basis where we handle a 500,000 dinar development. Basically, the engineering is different, especially if we have, most of those large developments, it's normally being designed in, by international design houses in collaboration with local consultants. So those projects needs to be treated differently. To see, even if it's bending a few municipal laws, we see, okay, what is the benefit it's bringing, rather than working exactly in line within the box, let's say. Because it is bringing a lot of money to the country, it's creating a new demand. These are iconic developments that cannot be treated similar to a three-story building, for example, in the old areas of Bahrain. This is the top of our wish list, basically.
I'll talk about RERA now. I think RERA first stage was to put the laws and the regulation to regulate this market, which it was done. I think stage 2, the way I see it, it has to incentivize the market by laws to bring or to attract more international investors, developers to invest in this sector. And I think they are working on this now. It's the laws that plays a big part in creating the demand. And today's our main issue is the demand. And I think, as I said, the government are working very hard on creating the demand.
But within Bahrain, you've got a strong local demand already for housing, ready-made demand. How do you think you're meeting that ready-made demand, or can you meet it? Because are you going to be too pricey for the local market?
It is there. The demand. See, this is the main key strength of Bahrain market. It's a genuine market.
Yes.
The demand we have a strong demand that grows from within. I think the initiative that was taken by the government, especially through programs like Mazaya and social housing, partnership, private-public partnerships, basically to develop social housing, is made a huge difference in the market and the demand, or to satisfy the demand and to create opportunity for the private sector developers as well. But we cannot only depend on this, and this is the let's say the problem. Sometimes developer, I like what Amin said earlier, sometimes developers get relaxed and just try to work from what is available, which I think it's a very dangerous, let's say, formula. If that is a sector, it's very active, it has its own players, but again, it's sorting a problem, but not really contributing to the overall economy of the country. The overall economy will be mainly affected by creating a new demand from new sectors coming from, and FDIs. This is the key. And that's a good one, but the focus at this point of time should be how to attract this foreign direct investment, how to attract this high-end demand for tourism, for housing units, for in terms of ownership and rentals, and basically that will cater for other elements like schooling and healthcare sectors. I hope
Can I give you all a final thought, because I know we're pushing for time and I've taken too much of your valuable time already. Each of you are committed to raising the bar, whatever you're doing. But I mean, how do you feel that Edamah can raise the bar even further? Because when you set the standards, the other developers have to raise the bar as well. So what is your without letting too many secrets? What is
No, I mean, I'm happy to talk about Edamah in terms of its strategy. And, Edamah was not always the big player you see today. I can remember when I first joined Edamah, we were a land bank and we had a few projects, maybe 10, 15 million dinar projects. And so the change that's happened for Edamah really has raised the bar for Edamah. I mean, we are now building cities, we are building master plans. And the mandate that I got when I joined Edamah, the new board, was very clear. They want Edamah to move the needle. They don't want Edamah to just be another. We are not in the business to compete with small, medium-sized developers. That's the wrong role for a sovereign wealth fund real estate arm. We are here to really catalyze investment by creating a master plan that can encourage then developers to develop within. And that's been my focus over the last 2 years. So the bar has been raised internally for us, and we want to start to provide opportunity for sub-developers to come in and develop. We have to support the development cycle. We shouldn't be competing by building buildings and malls and housing, because that's the private sector role.
Okay. For us, I think we have two key words here. Number one is always trying to take the quality of our end product to the next level. And this is a challenge that we have even as management, to be honest with you, with our board of directors. And I think, and hopefully everybody agrees with us, that we've managed to put our finger or print on that element. The other key role is to bring international renowned operators and tenants to our products. We don't want to repeat the same names. We are trying to attract new key international players throughout the project lifespan, from the design element to the operator at the end of the day. In terms of hotel operators, tenants, F&B tenants. So this is, I think, the two main challenges where we are trying to raise the bar.
Arif, because you've got bigger following that you're following to encourage you to raise the bar.
All I can say is this industry is lucky today in Bahrain. They have a good representative in both RERA and BABDA and the chamber. And we are here to work with them and facilitate. And I think so far we did good, but our bar is still, our ultimate goal is still far. Everybody is working for Bahrain, benefit of Bahrain, and they all add value. I want to just thank all the developers for their contribution to Bahrain economy. And
can I just have, we've got a couple of questions from Zoom. First one to Amin, about the number of public beaches is dwindling in Bahrain as real estate developers gobble up the seafronts. What is Edamah doing to maintain public access to beaches?
So for us, this is a very important topic. And, Bilad al-Jazair has always been a public beach. And today it remains a public beach. Our mandate with Bilad was to make sure that the beach and the seafront is accessible to everyone, but at the same time to encourage F&B and other outlets to come. And so we've come up with a voucher system which basically allows visitors to the beach to recoup whatever they've given the 2 dinars at the entry. They get it back in full. So there's no profit taken at all in terms of, but what we've done is we've organized the beach. And we've made it by implementing the system 2 things. One, we created a captive audience for all the F&B, because now all these people have vouchers that they have to use. And so this provides a huge incentive for the F&B to set up. And number 2, it controls for quality. We start to get more families, more ladies, more. It's become much more of a family destination than it ever was. And it was always difficult for us to come up with a mechanism. So we've activated almost 3 kilometers now of beach. Okay, the first kilometer is our phase 1, which is now completely open to the public, and we will be working on additional phases as we continue. So for us, it's not just about private development, but also to maintain the integrity of Bilaj as accessible to the public.
So in effect, it's free, but you've got a voucher system.
There's a voucher system.
There's a question for you, Majid, from Zoom again. What concrete are, I'm reading it word for word, but it doesn't make sense, but what concrete are developers taking above the bare minimum in terms of sustainability in construction? So basically, is the concrete they're using, is it sustainable? What is it going to do to the environment?
The concrete?
Yeah.
You know what we use, and at the moment we use what's available in the market, and which basically passes the quality requirements of the government, our consultants, and if there are any basically initiatives that we can put on top of that, we will. But currently we are limited with what's available in the market. However, we are trying to make sure that all, just we talk about sustainability in general and environment impact, it is an element that it is in the first session of briefing that we do to any consultant for any new project. In the first meeting, we finish our requirements, sizes, target sellable area, and that we need to achieve maximum efficiency in terms of power and emissions. Power is very sensitive. We're doing it for the environment, but on the other hand, it is a key selling point for our buyers as well. Today, a buyer will study the consumption of power of any unit that he buys. What kind of cooling system are we using? Are we using the new technologies, for example, inverters and others? Or we're using the conventional that might be cheaper for him when he buys the unit, but he's going to pay the price of it in the first couple of months that he uses his units. So it is definitely is part of our project briefing for any new project that we initiate.
Arif, do you think there should be some concrete laws or rules about the sustainability in business building materials?
This is a strange question. Concrete is concrete.
I think it's our supply.
I mean sustainability in building materials, I think.
Building material, of course. See, today there are lots of building material that saves energy, and I think most of the developers are using it to save on cost of utilities. Previously, utilities were cheap, so people don't care much, but I think now everybody is caring to go with those materials.
Is there any questions in the audience? I'm sorry, I've been looking across, I've not been looking in the audience. Is there anybody has any questions for our panelists?
Audience should have the priority.
Yes.
People on Zoom.
Please.
Maybe property technology.
Please, could you just... Well, there's a mic coming, so it'll be easier to use the mic.
I think you covered many topics. Thank you for that. Does property technology or PropTech part of your vision in your projects?
Gentlemen?
So it is. Real estate is a business, right? Real estate is not just about the construction, but I'm sure that there's technology applications that can support there. But for us, really, the operations of real estate is where PropTech, we see the value. And so, for example, things like leasing, collections, these technology can make a huge difference. Sales, huge difference. And there are applications and software that really can provide you with the ability to book sales very quickly and to understand what stock's available, what's not. So the business aspect is very key. For us also, because we're invested heavily in car parks, we see a lot of potential technology benefits related to how people pay for parking. And so if you go to Adliya Block 238, the terminal now, you can pay for your parking using your mobile phone and benefit. You don't have to stand in line and put your ticket. So definitely leveraging technology for the business of real estate, we've already moved in that direction and will continue to do so.
Arif?
I think this is a very important question, and as fintech important for the financial sector, PropTech is important for the real estate. And I know RERA is working on that direction as well. So this is the future we see it.
Majid, would you?
I would say that the quality of property management today is a key decision maker for any tenant and buyer. So, and PropTech plays a key role in defining this, the level of efficiency of the property management. It makes it easier for the basically the tenant to raise his complaint, make his payment, to request any kind of services that he requires. As a group, we really believe in it, and actually we've invested in a PropTech company just recently. I think the gentleman here will be happy because we bought 51% of his company, which has basically that they've developed an application that we believe we really loved it, that really support the management of properties.
Anybody? Any more questions?
I don't know why this happens always.
Yeah,
Always technologies, the glitches comes with the audience.
it's working now actually.
Speak louder also.
Congratulations to Mr. Arif for being elected in Chamber of Commerce for the second term. It is itself a great achievement. My question is you have covered all the topics for the development of Bahrain. We have recently seen many in WhatsApp group. Some presentations were, being very viral about the new islands that are being constructed, like Fishtal Jazam, and many other this kind of development. Are we, like Edamah, as your main role is to developing cities? So I'm sure, and again, as for the infrastructure is required for these islands, definitely it's a huge, step by the government to attract the foreign investment into these. But definitely Bahrain is one of the country where people like to invest and work. I have seen many people working in Saudi, but they prefer living in Bahrain because of the good standard of living in Bahrain. So I'm sure like these kind of islands will definitely be a boost to the economic development of Bahrain. Plus another major infrastructure project which we are all waiting for a long time is a metro. And I never heard anybody speaking about metro, what is the far side, whether there is any plan or it is still in steady stage. So I would prefer anybody would answer that. Thank you.
So let me talk about the islands first, because this is something that I'm involved in quite extensively. And so the efforts of the government, and the reason why you're starting to hear about this, is that the government is starting to actively package and bring to highlight the investment opportunities that exist. So I think if you even look regionally now, you'll see that most countries are starting to showcase the opportunities. And so the government, in its bid to kind of put together a suite of opportunities, has included the islands that exist currently, like Fashtal Yaram, that are really candidates for development. And so this is the attraction of what I call greenfield FDI. This is an investor that would come and help to shape the idea of what will be developed, rather than just invest in something. So this is an approach that I'm personally involved in a lot of meetings and discussions. The second point you bring up, I think, was the metro. And I think that I hope that I'd covered it in the connectivity discussion that I had. But clearly, mobility and connectivity are key elements. And so it can be through the road networks, as we said, with the Southern Loop Road, which is a key infrastructure for the South. But I'm sure in development, it's in the urban centers like Majid's development and others, it's very difficult to put in new infrastructure, right? So you have to depend on things like metro to allow people to come and go. And the easier that is, the more you can activate. So it's a key component.
And from what we hear, it's basically in a very advanced stage, to be honest. And even the funding mechanism of that, I think it's being finalized. I think the key role here, we depended a lot in the past on infrastructure being developed by the government, which I think is a burden on any government. We see more initiative now to encourage the PPP structure, the BOT structure, which we really believe in, that can deliver faster and in some certain cases maybe with higher level of quality and sustainability. So it is an opportunity that we've seen in the market, and we are interested basically. And there is an appetite from the government at this point of time, given that they finalized the right legal framework to govern this relationship between the different parties.
Arif, about any more teasing about the
No
metro?
more teasers. I think that they answered it.
Another question.
I just want to thank the gentleman for the
Actually, it's not a question, it's a comment about parkings, because recently I was looking at the World Economic Forum, and the new parkings now are being fit with electrical charges for electric cars built in. So the moment you park your car on the ground, it automatically gets charged wireless. So maybe you need to consider this instead of only benefit pay,
We will
for the future.
No, absolutely. We will be led by the market. And I can tell you that once there's a critical mass, or we feel that there's a critical mass in electric cars, we will start to implement this. This is natural. But we will react to the market on this specific point rather than to be too proactive and then we have chargers that are not being utilized, because it is a big investment.
I think one day they'll find a way to charge us as well. We'll be walking in charges.
Arif? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We started this with a quotation from Leonardo da Vinci, which is very apt on closing, that realize that everything connects to everything else. And what our gentlemen have given us the vision, that the visions have to connect. So thank you very much for our panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.